The writers who started the show are still with the show, which is great, because they have the history and the mythology of the show with them.
Every single writer has a very distinct style, and none of us would tell the same story the same way, so you get a different approach and a different way of thinking, and that's always beneficial because it adds, new life to the show and to the characters.
It's just part of my job, but you can thank me later with bottomless pitchers at O'Malley's.
It's hard. I mean, you think about coming up with 25 storylines just in 1 year. I mean, that is endless.
I could not write a crime procedural drama. I know that. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of research, and I so respect what they do.
If you look at all the episodes of NCIS LA, it's like a big, wonderful forest, and every tree starts with a seed.
For me, it always starts with what are we really talking about, and that doesn't have to do with the crime of the week. It has to do with how do I leave these characters in a different place in their development than when the episode started.
We always want to have a story that at least one of our characters can connect to, and so it becomes almost their personal baby, and they are very invested in seeing this case through and solving it.
So much of our job is to, in essence, stress the character in some way.
Okay, here goes nothing.
To find out the limits of who they are.
Federal agents!
Come out slowly with your hands in front of you.
My favorite thing is to just identify where I want to put the characters. What situation do I want them in? Because in that, then you get all the emotion.
So I came up with this idea to have Kenzie and Deeks be undercover as investigators with the FRA, which is the Federal Railroad Administration. The comedy of that episode came out of the research. When I talked to the Federal Railroad Administration, they said, here's the 100 things that we would do when we came in to investigate an accident.
Interviews should be scheduled for the engineer, the conductor, the yardmaster, security dispatcher, and once disengaged, the event recorder should be queried.
By talking to the world's experts from Union Pacific Railroad, from the LA Bomb Squad, I get pearls that make their way into the episode.
Attacking the initiator. Pray the power dump doesn't set it off.
A lot of what you see the characters doing on the show comes from personal experiences. For instance, Nell, Renee Felice Smith, recently had a big knife fight in the episode called War Cries, and she came over to my house, and I brought in some of my friends who were like martial arts blade experts. And in my living room, we choreographed this whole knife fight. When she ended up shooting it on the day, it was her first fight scene ever. And that's kind of what I try to create on the show, because when you relate to the characters, you kind of drive the story around things that you've experienced. There's more truth to it.
Bill?
Did I get him?
Yeah, you got him.
Good.
Pushing the writers to be constantly coming up with better ideas, it's really important, and they have to deliver. Because if they don't, everything falls down. It doesn't matter how good the special effects are or how good casting is. If there's not a good story there to tell, then the audience won't care. It's that simple, and the characters won't engage.
Our guys have been on aircraft carriers, and they've done, kidnap training and urban survival. So they bring all that to the table, and that's a sign of a writer who's enjoying their job, because we're not saying you have to do this. They're actually going out and doing this on their own because they want to, and they want to bring something to the show. That's commitment, that's dedication, but that's great, and we benefit from it.
I just wanted to say, we love our jobs.
I head home to finish some paperwork right now.
Yeah, no, I was just saying how much I care and appreciate my employment status.
That's what I thought.
The reason this show is a hit is because of the writers. And it's so evident when you see a great episode. It has very, very little to do with us as the actors. It's literally just what's on the page.
The actors actually don't see the scripts until sometimes a few days before we start shooting it, but we always have a table read where all of the actors perform the scripts, and it's actually really beneficial for the writers because you can hear the actors reading the words out loud. When I write, I speak the words out loud, but it's not the same thing as LL Cool J doing it.
Table reads are great on so many different levels. We do it the day before we shoot that episode. We do it over a lunchtime. it gives everyone the chance to go, okay, here's the next episode. We're all excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got this great scene with Deeks, or I've got this great scene with Hetty, and we've got a lot of fun action things happening. And there's this really emotional moment. It gets everyone on board and on the page.
Deep Trouble. This is the season finale. An aptly named script because it was written by Scott Gemmell.
We always do them in front of maybe 30 or 40 people, members of the crew, visitors, whoever it might be. And so it's a performance, and in a very safe environment. And because we have a fair amount of comedy, those table reads can become very entertaining as a result.
They're fun. It's nice to hear the episode out loud, and you discover kind of where your character's going in this episode, and you get to hear it, and you kind of all get to share a laugh together, and it's great. It's great, and it's the closest really that we have to performing in front of an audience and hearing their reaction.
What's really gotten nice and tight over the 5 years is the consistency of the voices. When we first started out the first couple of years, you'd read an early script, it's like, yeah, that's probably not something Callan would say, or that sounds more like a Kenzie line, or I think that's a Sam line. Now people understand everyone's voices, and they can write for the characters better.
We need to know you're on the same page.
We need to know you can read our intent.
You mean your minds?
I think it's very easy to hear their voices. They're very distinct, but then to be able to create them yourself and have them say things that are original, that takes time.
And what's your excuse?
I don't need one. It's your turn. In fact, the next 3 are your turn.
I like writing two guys in a car, like arguing or fighting or getting along. And in order to do that, you have to really find the characters. So for me, I feel like I know who these guys are now, and I can write long scenes that have nothing to do with a case or evidence where their real personality was coming out.
You see, Deeks, you have other skill sets. Huh? Like liaising.
Right.
I always thought it was pronounced lazing.
It's clever. It's a play on words. I like it.
We know what we know about the characters based on everything that's been revealed about them. And the little seasonings, if it's consistent with who they are, it's gonna fly.
He doesn't know the rule.
What?
You didn't tell him the rule?
I didn't think I had to.
He's your partner. You should be telling him the rules.
He is still in the room. Hi, how are you? What's the rule?
It's a lot of fun to write for each of the characters on the show. And one of the great things about this show is that each one has such a distinct voice that it actually makes it easier to write, because there'll be a line that only Deeks can deliver.
Boom!
Or there'll be a look that only Callan can give.
Certain guys take ownership of certain characters, like Calstein. He loves the Kenzie Deeks relationship, and usually the stuff he comes up with is really good. So we'll kind of follow that lead.
I've never had a girl give me her knife before. Does that mean that we are official?
Yeah, sometimes a knife's just a knife.
We do explosions and shootouts with the best, like major league level. But what I've found is the audience tunes in for the character moments, that little moment between Kenzie and Deeks, that smile share between Callan and Sam, the Linda Hunt of it all. That's what they love.
You ever gonna stop moving us around like pieces in a chess game?
I don't move pieces, Mr. Callan. I move the board.
The show takes on a life of its own. It feels sort of real to us. And we all see the characters, I think, a little bit differently, just from as a writer's point of view and as the actors. And at the end of the day, the show is really about the relationship between our cast. And the stories are sort of how that relationship is told over the course of an event or an investigation.
Nice up this morning, huh?
Went down just like we drew it up.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better to set the hammer down.
We know that Chris O'Donnell and LL Cool J love their banter scenes. So usually, as they're walking up to the scene of the crime or to interview a suspect, it's a great opportunity. They get out of the car and they can have their comedic banter.
When you're sturdy and still, put down roots.
Moss has no roots. You peel it away like a rotten banana.
I think your brain's a rotten banana.
Mm-hmm.
The fun between the cracks, the buddy comedy thing, when Callan's giving Sam crap with just digging in his ribs, those are precious moments. Or when Sam gives it back, even better.
When did grown men start wearing skinny jeans? Could you picture me in a pair of skinny jeans? I couldn't fit my arm in a pair of skinny jeans.
You wore Huskies as a kid, didn't you?
When Chris and I are just hanging out, all we do is match wits all day long. It's hilarious. It's not always as PG as, you know, some of the things we do on the show. So the writers, they hear it, they pick up on it, they tweak things, they change things, they make up new things, of course, but the dynamic is real, and it's true, and it's authentic.
On set, you'll see something in an actor's performance, a very subtle thing, and that will spark an aspect of their character, because, you know, the actors just surprise you at every turn. You'll have a line, and you wrote the line, and you heard the line in your head, and then they'll say it, and there'll be all these other ramifications to it that you never expected.
Most of our writers have been working with us since the very beginning, and so they know the characters pretty damn well. But we also know ourselves pretty damn well because we play them all the time and we play them every day. So, you know, when the writer's like, if this feels like a more honest moment to do it this way versus the way I wrote it, go ahead.
An admiral and a journalist are on a plane.
Huh. They walk into a bar with a rabbi and a penguin. Love that one.
This is why we don't partner.
But I digress. Please, continue.
I really enjoy whenever we have our writers on set. They're just easy to talk to, totally malleable. We can tailor the scene. If it's not working, we find a way around it and we make it work. And that's what's so cool. They're such team players.
The actors are very, very insightful and very smart about their characters. They will come to you with questions, and sometimes your first instinct is, oh no, that's not right. And then you'll think about it a moment and you're like, wow, you just picked up on something that I didn't see, and you're making this scene better and you're making the show better.
It's a collaborative process. The actors, you know, they'll come and tell you, I really think this might be a Callan line, or I really think this might be something Eric would do.
There's so much of the people that play the roles in the roles. You have to take that into account. So every time an actor reads one of my scripts, I want him or her to have that experience of, wow, Dave's showing me a path, but I have to get there on my own. Dave gave me a sentence, but there's some words missing. And I have to fill those words in on my own, and those words are the emotion they bring to the role.
During production, you are on the set from call to wrap, which could be starting at 6:30 in the morning and going for 12 or 13 hours. And every now and then, some of the dialogue isn't working, or it's different, or an actor may want something changed a little bit.
The writer of each episode is on set with us every single time we're doing their episode, which means that you can go up to them and say, like, hey, this line isn't really working for me. How can we change it? How can we adjust it? How can we make more sense of it? And everybody works together. Like, it really is an ensemble piece.
Production is thrilling to suddenly see people start to embody what you wrote. It's a great feeling in that first time those words come out. You know, sometimes you sit there and you go, ooh, I gotta go back and work on it. But a lot of times you go, wow, that's gonna sing. That's gonna be really great.
Come on, people, let's be honest. You can run, but you cannot hide from the E to the B to that E to the O.
The E to the B T O?
On set, you say, like, you know, if I can change this one word, an and to a but, what do you think about that? And they're like, well, how about if we change it to an if, you know, and we work together. It's kind of this symbiotic relationship. They're kind of writing for you, and you kind of want to act a certain way for them. Look at me. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Let it out slowly. Feel your muscles relaxing. Just think about butterflies fluttering around you.
What?
Butterflies. They're fluttery and they're calming.
For a writer, every moment of your life is fodder for what you do, you know, whether it's someone you see or something you hear or a song or a conversation, a snippet of a conversation. You know, the whole thing with Eric and Nell about the butterflies was based on a conversation.
A lot of it comes from personal experience. Or if you hear something great, life is material. I tell people all the time, if you don't want it in the show, don't say it around me, because it might make it.
You're gonna get a tat.
I didn't say I was gonna actually...
Look, don't take this the wrong way.
I think I just did.
But there are tat people, and then there's, well, you.
I'm not a tat person?
No.
It's the nature of the business, and you can bring a part of who you are to the show. When it's in LA and everyone on the writing staff lives here every day, everyone can bring something, because we all live in totally different places in the city.
Because it is an LA-centric show, we want to show off all the great locations we have, not only iconic locations, but some of the ones that are less known and gritty, and we are encouraged to use them. I'll tell you, it's surprising, and I've been here for 30 years or more, and I've been in more places in LA and saw more things than I have my entire life here.
Because it's television, because we're filming and then things are on the air a couple weeks later, we're actually able to be very hip and show up at places that are very hot when they're hot, and then we get to put it on the air for the rest of the country and the world to see.
You know, the goal here was to look like a Hollywood hipster. Ensemble you got going, it's like Gap threw up some Hot Topic. It's definitely not hip.
It's a unique thing to live here. There isn't another city like it that has beach, mountain, everything in one place, and then all the different races in one place, so you kind of want that to come across in the characters.
Okay, bring on the wonderful, yeah?
Stop saying that.
Yeah, but you don't want to be the drab Danny or the gray Gary. Remember, Chad, you hired me to make you fabulous.
We have a very diverse, eclectic group of writers, and so sometimes the scripts are very different, but that's one of the appeal to it. Like, you can tell if it's a Gemmel episode, you can tell if it's a Frank episode, you can tell if it's a, a Kalstein episode, usually because there's hot girls in it, and fast cars, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of, hot girls and fast cars.
Deeks is gonna kill himself for missing this.
Yeah, we might not want to mention this one. Oh, I could tell you exactly who wrote the scripts. If you didn't put a name on it, I could tell you in 2 seconds who wrote which one. They definitely have their own style, certain subject matters, certain characters that they like to write for. And I think that's part of the charm of the show, is that there are different styles.
These guys have certain vibes that they like. Dave Kalstein and Kyle Harimoto write very introspective warrior pieces. Jordana adds a lot of humor. Joe likes to inject a lot of ethnicity into his scripts. And you might be in the barrio somewhere.
There's always going to be knife fighting and David Kalstein's, Frank's is probably going to be depressing in a good way. Joe Sachs will be, researched to death, but accurate.
What is that? Don't ask.
I can tell Scott Gemmel, for sure, because he has a lot of potty humor. Frank. Undoubtedly I can tell Frank. He's probably our darkest writer. Shane, I can tell Shane for sure. He writes wonderful things for Callan.
I assume, yeah.
Shane, he's above and beyond. He is a king of rising tension, where it's building to the 4th act, and you're just like, that's great television.
The reality is, when you get to season 5 of any show, these shows get harder and harder to write. These guys really, really understand the material, and they're fantastic to work with. And the success of NCIS Los Angeles really attributable to what these guys put on the page.
It's all storytelling. We have, an hour to do it. You want to pack as much as you possibly can, and it's what we do.
What I enjoy most about writing for the show is lying in bed with my eyes closed, having a dreamlike vision of what's going to be on the screen, and then a few months later, it's there for 15 million people to watch. That's an incredible feeling.
There's always something new going on with the characters and with the plot and the action. You get to go to really cool locations. It's just the coolest job ever.
This is not a show that makes you feel bad. This is not a show that is overly violent. It's like that comfortable sweater that always fits perfectly. And that is really gratifying too.
This is a dream job. And to get to work with such a great group of people on all phases of the job, starting from Shane all the way down to the PAs on the set, everybody's wonderful to work with. And we're having fun.